Good afternoon and welcome to the NASA Office of Small Business Programs, our monthly OSBP learning series. Today's topic is NASA's Enhanced Mentor Protégé Program Overview. We have a guest speaker today and we're excited for them to share the information regarding all of the updates to one of our agency's flagship programs. My name is Trephilia Parker and I'm a program specialist at the NASA Office of Small Business Programs, and I will help guide you through our morning session before we turn it over to our guest speaker. And before we do that, I would like to bring to the virtual stage my colleague, Ms. Tracy Hudspeth, for a few housekeeping notes. Tracy?
Thank you, Trephilia. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping tips to keep in mind during today's presentation. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them into the Q&A box. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please input your issues in the chat box. Speakers, we ask that you keep your microphones on mute when not speaking. This presentation will be recorded and attendees will receive an email once the materials are made available online. This slide demonstrates what your screen looks like and the location of different functions available to you. The chat function is where you'll input any technical difficulties you're experiencing. The Q&A function is where you'll type your questions and one of our speakers or panelists will respond. The poll function is where you can respond to our poll. We ask that you take a moment to submit your response before the conclusion of the webinar. If you are missing any of the functions, please click the three dots on the bottom of your screen to populate the missing function. WebEx closed captioning is available. To enable closed captioning, please do so by clicking the CC on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Then click the three dots on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen to turn on the caption panel. Closed captioning will appear in this panel for the duration of today's presentation. As mentioned, we have a poll feature. Today's questions are: how did you learn about this webinar? Is this the first webinar hosted by the NASA Office of Small Business Programs that you've attended? Which of the following classifications applies to your institution or organization or company? Have you done business with NASA? And what are the barriers to entry when doing business with NASA? The poll will be available for the duration of today's presentation, and we thank you in advance for your response. That's it for our housekeeping tips. I'll turn the floor back over to our host, Ms. Trephilia Parker. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And to our attendees, hopefully you were able to make note of those housekeeping tips, and definitely please complete the poll that should appear on your screen. This is an excellent way for the Office of Small Business Programs to really gauge who has attended and who's in the audience here and that demographic. And so that helps us not only today, but it also helps us in planning for future events and engagements with our small business community. Now I am pleased to introduce to some and reintroduce to others our guest speaker, Mr. David Brock. He is the Small Business Specialist at the NASA Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. David has a career that spans more than 30 years and brings a wealth of knowledge with him regarding small business procurement, but in this regard, and for today's purposes, regarding our Enhanced Mentor Protégé program. Please join me in welcoming Mr. David Brock, who will be our featured speaker for today. David?
Thank you, True, and I appreciate the opportunity today to share a little bit about the Mentor Protégé program. As most of you know, we have been kind of going through a review of the current Mentor Protégé program. And if we go to the first slide, we entered into a moratorium. Mr. Daniil, when he took over as the assistant administrator of our small business programs at headquarters, was very interested in our Mentor Protégé program, and after giving it some consideration, decided to go ahead and put it under a moratorium. He felt like there were some other things that we needed to bring to the table. Not that the program was not working, the program was good, but the focus of the program. And so over the past several months, we have been going through all of the documentation and processes, looking at Mentor Protégé programs at other locations such as SBA, Department of Defense, And with all that said, we've gone through and done quite a bit of rebranding on some documentation, and still actually in some of that rebranding, and will probably not be totally completed, finished with the rebrand until probably into the October timeframe. But the good news is, it is our goal to open back up the Mentor Protege program come November 1 to start accepting into the program new Mentor Protege agreements. So we're really excited about that. And I think as you look at, as we go through a few slides, we're going to touch on some of those changes. And I think all of you hopefully will get a lot out of the presentation today, especially those who are looking to maybe get into some type of Mentor Protege agreement in the future, especially small companies with the larger companies. So with that said, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And so I want to focus on a couple of three areas here. I call it focus moving forward. And this involves a lot of updates and things that has happened again since the moratorium was locked into place. And I didn't mention, but it was on February the 21st. Seems like it's been a forever, but again, it's been a very busy few months as we've gone through and been working with the team to help us come up with some new direction for the program. And I think it's really going to be a really good program as we move forward. One of the first things we looked at is looking at the NAICS codes on these contracts, especially those contracts where, we would be looking to put these new Mentor Protege agreements in place. And there's a reason for all this is what we wanted to do is to make sure that our program, a new program, the enhanced program, would align with the focus of the agency as we move forward. We call it our 2040, but we have basically identified many areas of need, not only across NASA, but I'm sure it's the same way across many other federal entities across the federal government. And it really focuses in on our supply chain gap. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we really want to see these Mentor Protege agreements established in those areas so that hopefully in the future, as we go through these agreements successfully and at the completion of those, so we're going to have some really good qualified companies who can step up and help fill many of those gaps in those supply chains. And again, we're looking to start that implementation process as of November 1. The target industries that we're going to be looking at in the future is going to focus in several areas: research and development, aerospace manufacturing, and information technology. And information technology along the lines of very specialized software, those type of things that we're going to need as we embark on our new journey at NASA. If you think about it, yes, we've been to the moon, but that was a long time ago. And as we look ahead, the technology that we have today, whether it be from the IT perspective, we're going to need is a lot of new technology. There's going to have to be a lot of new innovations that's going to allow us to do the things we want to do, like going back to the moon and retiring the International Space Station and looking for a new location in space near the moon where we will use similar to what we do today with the International Space Station. But then the other big key here is to be able to get us from the moon to Mars. And we know that the technology needed to do that is going to have to improve. We've got a lot of different things that's going to have to be done that allow us. So again, these are some things that we're going to be looking at. And then we're going to look at, and obviously, type of agreements that we put in place in the past, the service type things. Not to say we won't continue to use some of that, but as I'll show you on a few slides later, that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. And then again, enhancing those program impacts. We're going to have to be focused in on those long-term goals and objectives of our mission. And so again, that's kind of where we're at today. So be thinking along the terms of NAICS codes, the new focus on trying to develop and grow companies that's going to help us fill those supply chain gaps. All right, let's go to the next slide, mentor eligibility. Not a lot of change here other than we'll talk about the contract in a moment, but for a mentor, a large business to participate in the program, they're going to have a NASA contract. That contract is going to have, as a part of it, a subcontracting plan. So that's the main requirement. Got to be eligible for receipt of contracts. But the big key here is that we're going to focus on those contracts that are in place with those subcontracting plans under those set NAICS codes that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So again, it's a NAICS code that's tied to the contract is what's going to be kind of the driver here. What are those NAICS codes? Eligible NAICS codes are on the next slide. Let's take a look at those. And you'll see those listed. Again, these are going to focus primarily on R&D, aerospace manufacturing, and IT. Again, that high-level IT support. Anything outside of these NAICS codes, not to say we won't consider others, but it would be on a case-by-case basis. Let's go to the next slide. Protégé eligibility. Again, pretty much the same that you saw under the old program. NAICS code, small company has got to be able to meet the size standard of the NAICS code that you're going to be mentored under. Like the large company, they have to be eligible. There's no limit to the number of mentor protege agreements that a small company can have. The only thing here is it's only one at a time, and if you do multiple mentor protege agreements over a period of years, on each one of them, that developmental assistance is going to have to be different from agreement to agreement. Let's go to the next slide. Classifications. Who qualifies to participate in the new enhanced program? All small businesses, all categories of small, and that's different from the previous one in that small businesses, just small businesses without any of the subcategories were not, or those underutilized classifications would not qualify. Now they are. So it's open to all small companies. That's one thing to note. Historically black colleges and universities and minority institutions, and also Ability One suppliers. So let's go to the benefits. What was the benefit of the new program, the enhanced program? For the mentor, it establishes long-term relationships with the protege, which is very important. Also, for the quality suppliers, I mean, it allows you an opportunity to grow another good company into that supply chain, which is very important. All the developmental assistance, the cost that you, the mentor, will expend to perform the mentoring under this agreement will count toward your subcontracting goals, dollar for dollar. And then again, most importantly, and you'll hear this mentioned a lot, not only today, but in the coming months, supply chain gap. Trying to build that, get the right companies into the supply chains that's going to help us do the things that need to be done in the future. And that's already really happening. Here at Marshall, I work on some of the major programs, Space Launch System, Rocket Program, Human Landing System, and we hear supply chain gap every day. And all of these programs, both on the contractor side as well as on our side, technically speaking, are really focused in on this. And it has been a concern over the past few years, going all the way back to shuttle and even prior to shuttle, is making sure that we maintain that base of suppliers that we're going to need to help keep America strong, to help keep America's space program strong. And we hope that the changes that we are putting forth in the new Mentor Protege program is going to be one of many ways that we can help do that. From the protege standpoint, developmental assistance that you receive under that is hopefully going to help your company to become a stronger company, both technically and from the business standpoint. Under the mentor protege agreements, as you know, the large business can sole source work to you than the subcontracting program. And ultimately, what we hope will happen is it's going to increase prime contractor opportunities as well as subcontracting opportunities with the primes, not only at NASA, but across the federal government. All participants, teaming to win new contracts. The teaming will be very important because as a successful protege in this program, it's going to allow you opportunity to have access to more teaming relationships. It's an excellent marketing tool when you're looking to try to get yourself in a position to have additional work opportunities, this is a selling point, knowing that you have been through this mentor protege agreement successfully, and as a result, you have grown and a much stronger company today than you were prior to going into the mentor protege agreement. And it's just networking. Fostering that networking opportunity is very important. On the next slide, no change to the types of agreement. We still have two different agreements we're looking at here. The credit agreement is one. That's the one that is used mostly across NASA, and not only in the past, will probably be used quite a bit as we move forward in the future. And a credit agreement simply is this. It allows you, the large company, to take those dollars that are expended to mentor that protege over the life of that mentor protege agreement. You get to count those towards your goals. The other one is the award fee program. And under award fee agreements, these are only going to apply to those contracts that have award fee as a part of their contract. And just for note, most all of our major contracts, SLS and HLS at Marshall, they're all award fee contracts. So it works real well in those type environments, aerospace manufacturing, R&D, because again, most of those larger contracts will have award fee as a part of that contract. And of course, once we set that up, there'll be a set amount of that award fee that would be used to compensate the mentor for the job that they're doing in mentoring that small business. And it also has to do with that technology level. Under the award fee, it focuses on SBR Phase 2 contractors with the ideal of moving that technology readiness level, or TRL, from the 3 to 4 up to that 7 or 8, moving it closer to commercialization. We've only had one of these to date at Marshall. And of course the agency, but the first one came out of Marshall way back, and it was on a shuttle contract. But we hope to see more of these as we move forward. This is an excellent way to develop and grow the technologies that we're going to need, again, to fill that supply chain gap among many of the prime contractors supporting our programs today. All right, let's go to the next slide. This is the process. It's more or less the same as it was under the other program. And we don't, as NASA, we don't put these relationships or bring these relationships into fruition. That's between the large company and you, the small company. Your job is going to be to establish that relationship, start the collaborative process, and in doing so, once a decision has been made, that there is opportunity for a mentor protege agreement to be formed between a large business and the small company. The next step will be to put together a needs assessment. And basically what this is the large business is going to talk with the small company about things that they can do in the mentoring that will help develop and grow that small business. And once the needs assessment has been put together, next step will be for the mentor to get with a small business specialist, contracting officer administering that contract, and also the contracting officer representative, which is the technical side. And the discussion will take place at the center where the contract resides. And once you get the endorsement of these three, the next step is to put the mentor protege agreement package together, making sure that everything that needs to go in that package is going to be there. Once it's completed, it will be sent back to the center in question. Small business specialists, CO, COR, they're going to be the ones to review it, make sure that everything is in the package that needs to be, all the data, everything, the milestones, all that stuff is correct. And once that has been completed, the next step is to send it to my office. Mentor Protégé program, of course, resides here at Marshall, and it's going to come to us. Our team is going to review it. And if everything looks good in terms of the content of the agreement, we're going to approve it, and we'll establish a start date. Okay, let's go to the next slide, and we'll talk about a few things to consider. Same thing here as was in the previous program. We want to make sure that as you're pulling these together, and I've said it a couple of times, before you send that package, make sure the content of that package addresses everything that needs to be in that agreement. More times than not, these agreements get kicked back because they're missing data. So you want to make sure as a mentor working with a protege that all of that data is contained within that mentor-protege agreement. 70-30 split, no change here. If for everything other than HBCU, MI, 70%, 30%. 70% of that developmental assistance has to be technical, or at least we want it as close as we can get it to 70%. 30% will be business, and it's 70-30% of direct hours and direct labor cost. It shifts the other way when you're working with an HBCU as a protege or an MI. It goes 70% business, 30% technical. Another thing that we focus in very closely on is ODCs, other direct cost. We'd like for that to be 10% or less of the total direct labor cost. We also look at who's going to be doing the mentoring. As the mentor, the large business, we expect for you to be the primary entity to doing the mentoring, at least up to 75% or more. We do know that on occasions they will reach out to outside resources, outside other entities to come in and help, such as Apex accelerators, small business development centers, etc. But there again, primarily the mentoring needs to come from the large company. We'll want to make sure that the milestones that are established in that mentor-protege agreement are both valid and obtainable, and our team will look very closely at that as we're reviewing the mentor-protege agreement. And before the actual start date of the mentor-protege agreement, the contracting officer administering the contract will have to modify the contract with a clause that you see there. And once that has been modified, it will also include the developmental assistance, the technical volume, as well as the Gantt chart. All of that will be incorporated into the contract. Next slide is the content of the mentor-protege agreement, and you'll see all the different things listed here. So this can become like a checklist to you, the mentor, and to the protege, but primarily the mentor because you're going to be the one pulling the package together. But all that you see listed here will have to be incorporated into that mentor-protege agreement before you actually send it over to start that review process at the center and ultimately before it gets to my office. Next slide is our forms, our templates, guides, and so forth. All of this information is available at the website. Now, we'll say for note that right now we're still going through some of the rebranding on a few of these documents. We're not 100% complete. We hope to be there very soon. Just be patient with us, but hopefully we'll have all of this wrapped up, if not before the end of this month, certainly within the first several weeks of October, with the ideal again of being able to receive new mentor-protege agreements into the program starting November 1. How to contact us? We have a dedicated email address and phone number. If you have any questions along the way that you need to have addressed, get in touch with my office and we'll be more than glad to discuss any aspect of the program with you. And with that, that concludes my presentation today.
Thank you so much, David, for all of that wonderful information regarding the enhancements that have been made to the NASA Mentor Protege program. For our attendees, just a reminder that the slides from today's presentation, as well as a video recording of this training, will be sent out to all registered attendees. So I'm sure you're taking feverish notes, but you will have these slides as a handy resource as you decide on your path to engage with the NASA Mentor Protege program. Now we are going to head into the next part of our program today, which is going to be our Q&A. We do have team members that are online that are answering questions in the chat. However, as part of the registration process, attendees were able to submit questions in advance. So we did pull a few of those questions, and Mr. Brock will answer those. The session will be moderated by my colleague, Ms. Tracy Hudspeth. So I'll invite her back to the virtual stage, and I will turn it over to Tracy and to Mr. Brock for the Q&A session.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trufilia. All right, Mr. Brock, let's go ahead and get started with our first question. All right, what are the eligibility requirements for small businesses to participate in the NASA Mentor Protege program?
Okay, it goes back to one of the slides. It's called Protégé Eligibility Requirements, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. You need to be a small business, able to meet the size standard of the NAICS code, have to be eligible to receive awards, and obviously have one of those classifications, which if you're a small business, you will have that. And so those are really the basic requirements to be able to participate in the program.
Great, thank you so much. And how do I find and approach a suitable mentor within NASA's network?
We have an approved mentors list that we will be posting as we move along. And on that list, you will have all the approved mentors that are approved to participate in the program up to 6 years. Now that's going to be changed somewhat as a result of the new focus, focusing on those mentors that are involved in R&D, as I mentioned earlier, aerospace manufacturing, and so forth. Also, it's very important to note that we have many outreach events throughout the fiscal year, both at NASA and even at the center levels. In fact, this week alone, we have tomorrow, the 19th, we have our 38th Marshall Small Business Alliance meeting. And hopefully some of you that are listening in today will have an opportunity to participate in that event. It's a in-person event. And all of our very large prime contractors, those large companies, of which most are approved to be mentors in the program, they will be exhibiting at the event. So that's another way to start that process of meeting and engaging with companies, especially the large companies who are going to be interested in talking with you, probably more so today than ever before, especially with this new focus that we have on the program. And that would be to, fill some of those gaps in the supply chain that, again, is something that we focused on very heavily, not only as an agency, but with the Mentor Protege program.
Awesome, thank you. All right, our next question is, how long does a mentor protege mentor protege relationship typically last in the program?
It's a good question. Minimum of 1 year, max of 3 years.
All right, thank you. Our next question is, what are the specific benefits for small businesses participating in in NASA's mentor protege program?
Well, the developmental assistance focuses very heavily in two areas, technical and business. As a result of participating as a protege in the Mentor Protege program, the mentoring is going to focus in these two areas. And ultimately, at the end of that agreement, you as a small business will have much better technical capability as well as business capabilities that's going to help you as a company to grow and develop in the future years.
Okay, awesome. Our next question is, what are the reporting requirements for proteges and mentors throughout the program?
Once the agreement begins, 1 year from the date of the start date on the mentor protege agreement, the mentor and the protege will send us a annual report that summarizes everything that has happened to date in the program. And that will occur at the end of each year. Once the agreement comes to an end, the protege will be required to submit a update on kind of a report on where they stand 1 year after going through the agreement. And that will occur again. If it ends on such and such date, 1 year from that time, 30 days given to submit. They will submit a update summarizing kind of where the company's at, talking about opportunities that have happened or occurred as a result of going through the agreement. And that's going to happen for 2 years. At the end of the first year, we'll get a report from the small business, and then at the end of the second year.
Okay, awesome. How can small businesses leverage NASA's Mentor Protege program to increase their technical capabilities and competitiveness?
There again, by going through a mentor protege agreement, with the focus being totally on technical and business, It's going to really grow your strength of your company. It's going to put you in a much better position to pursue other opportunities, both at the prime level as well as subcontracting to other primes, not only at NASA, but across the entire federal government.
Okay, great. Is there a limit to the number of small businesses that can participate in the program each year?
There's no limit. In fact, there's no limit on the number of mentor protege agreements a protege can have. As mentioned, when we went through the protege eligibility slide, a small business can have more than one mentor protege agreement, but you can only have one at a time. And under each new agreement, the developmental assistance has to differ.
Okay, thank you. And what specific qualifications or experience should small businesses have to be considered competitive for the enhanced mentor protege program?
But it goes back to really the focus area on the NAICS codes that we're looking at. And it is going to really come down to the fact that if you are a small business looking to get into the mentor protege program, it's probably going to be the small business is going to have to be in that R&D area, working research development and manufacturing, such as machine shops, fabricators, or those that are into the high level, high technical area of IT. So you basically are going to want your core competencies to kind of align to those key areas. Again, R&D, aerospace manufacturing, and high level IT.
Okay, thank you. And are there opportunities within the program for small businesses that fall outside of the listed NAICS codes?
There's a possibility there could be. As I mentioned, we're going to be looking at those on a case by case basis. There would have to be a real focus on if it's not in the R&D field, the manufacturing field, or IT. We're going to be looking for things that's going to help us to be innovative, technologically, things that's going to help us to accomplish our mission of being deep space travel, whether it be going back to the moon or again going to the moon to Mars mission, which is going to be a real exciting time.
Yes, indeed, it will be. All right, the next question. Can a small business that has already worked with NASA participate in the Mentor Protege program, or is it primarily for businesses new to the agency?
Now, any company that's interested in participating in that program, again, focusing in on these new focus areas, can participate.
All right, thank you for that. And does NASA provide any resources or training for businesses, I'm sorry, for small businesses to help them navigate its processes more effectively? Can I get that
Absolutely.
out today?
Today is a perfect example of that. Uh, NASA's learning series, very important. These webinars, at each one, there's always going to be a new and exciting topic that will be discussed. And all of these topics can help a small company better navigate the system and hopefully put you in a much better position to be successful in your marketing endeavors. And even outside of NASA, if you go look at SBA, they're always doing these seminars and webinars. In fact, once a month, they conduct what we call First Wednesday. And there's always a good topic typically presented at every one of those. So, that's just to name a few. But yes, these learning series that NASA puts on once a month, these are very, very beneficial.
Yes, they are. Thank you so much. Um, I think that's it for our questions. Let me see. Yes, and I will go ahead and pass it over to our host, Mr. Philia Parker. Thank you so much, Mr. Brock, for your answers to our questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you again, David, for your presentation on the NASA Enhanced Mentor Protege Program. Tracy, thank you for moderating our Q&A segment, and David for your knowledge and just the wealth of information that you bring from your experience over the breadth and width of your career, but especially today as it relates to the NASA enhanced mentor protege program. So now we are going to go through a few OSBP updates. Again, you'll get a copy of these slides, and you can have these as a ready reference at your fingertips. And a final plug to complete the poll if you have not had a chance to do so. So David mentioned when he was asked about training opportunities that he mentioned our OSBP learning series. Some of you today may be your first time attending, some of you may be regular attendees, but next month, October 16th, we're very excited that our assistant administrator, Mr. Dwight Daniil, will host his very first annual Small Business Town Hall. The topic is Charting New Horizons. As you may know, Mr. Daniil joined NASA as our new assistant administrator in February 2024. So this will be his very first annual Small Business Town Hall. And we do welcome you to register for that, as well as our other learning series that are posted on our OSBP website. And I also mentioned that, and we can put it in the chat, I'll also mention that we have our learning series videos on demand, available on demand on our new OSBP YouTube playlist. And so we'll post that link in the chat, and we'll make sure we communicate that out so that for all of our learning series, you have access to them on demand and on your time. Next slide, please. And again, a plug for our learning series. So October, we mentioned our annual Small Business Town Hall. And then in November, we will have growth strategies, expanding your business in the aerospace industry. So again, we invite you to visit our website to learn more about each of our learning series topics and to register for a topic that you have interest in. Next slide, please. Our NASA vendor database is our primary tool for market research here at NASA. It is housed out of the Office of Small Business Programs. It is open to all vendors, small and large. It's also open to institutions of higher education, our HBCUs and our MSIs that were mentioned as part of today's presentation. So the QR code on the screen, you can scan that to take you to the website that will allow you to register as a vendor. In the database, you'll be able to upload your capability statement. One of the things I will point out is before you register in our vendor database, you will need to have registered in SAM at sam.gov, System for Awards Management, because our system is tethered or tied to sam.gov, and so it is on a systematic basis. Your information is refreshed from SAM to our vendor database, so that is a requirement for your joining our vendor database, is that you have a sam.gov account. Next slide, please. And our OSBP mobile application is another tool that we use to engage the small business community. It is available on the Android and Apple platforms. If you search for OSBP mobile, you'll see it pop up. The logo for the OSBP mobile app is there on the screen to help you make it easily identifiable to you. But again, benefits are for the mobile app is increased engagement. At our mobile app, you can find access to each of our small business specialists across the agency and engage them as far as scheduling appointments and time to talk to them directly. We also have information regarding additional support individuals at each center, our small business technical advisors, our ombudsman at each of our centers. We also have our active contract listings where you can learn about recurring buys at the agency, and you can download those, you can sort those and find information that is relative to you or to your institution, and then follow suit in contacting the appropriate individual. So we encourage you to join or download our OSBP mobile application, and use that tool as well. Next slide, please. And OSBP is on social media. We are currently on our two primary accounts are on X as well as on Facebook. And so we want to make sure that, we are amplifying that our organization is here at NASA and the work that we do for our small business and educational institution community. But we want to make sure that we're reaching people where they are. So some people will visit us on our website, our mobile app, our NASA Vendor database, and some people are very social. And so we are active on Facebook and X. There you can find information about upcoming events, as far as our learning series, our outreach events, and you can also find out about where we are as far as across the country and where you can join us at various outreach events. So we encourage you to follow us on X as well as on Facebook. And then on LinkedIn, we are a part of the agency's flagship LinkedIn page, and our information is amplified there as well. And so there are various updates that are available on the agency's LinkedIn page as it relates to the Office of Small Business Programs. Next slide, please. And we do have a few publications that are available on our website. We do have a link at the bottom so that when you get the set of slides, you're able to go and kind of visit the various publications. I will highlight our flagship publication, which is the Small Business Guide to NASA. If there was one publication, of course, that we would recommend, this would be it. This includes information about all of our centers, what they buy, information about our small business specialists, how you can connect and engage with them, as well as some of our programs that we have here at NASA. So we encourage you to download that or bookmark it for a ready reference when you're ready to engage with the Office of Small Business Programs. Next slide, please. And as always, we want to make sure that we are providing relevant, useful, timely, and accurate content as part of our OSBP learning series. So we do encourage our attendees to email us, let us know, one, what's working, what's not. Also send us topics of interest that you may like to learn and hear more about. And while we can't accept all topics, you never know, your topic may be selected and you'll see it possibly in a future presentation. Next slide. And again, to learn more about the Office of Small Business Programs, you can visit us online at www.nasa.gov/OSBP. Next slide. And again, my name is Traphilia Parker. This is my contact information on the screen. As always, please reach out to us if we're doing something right or if there's an area of improvement. We want to hear that as well because we want to provide optimal service to our small business community. And I believe that may be my final slide. We'll go to the next slide, please. Yes, thank you again to David Brock for his amazing presentation on the Enhanced NASA Mentor Protégé program. We hope that you found it useful. Again, you will receive a copy of the slides for today, as well as a link to the video recording. Thank you all for participating and taking the poll today. As part of our closeout for this event, you will receive an attendee survey. We encourage you to complete that as well. And thank you, Tracy, for moderating the Q&A segment. And thank you all to our attendees for joining us today and for just your continued support of the NASA Office of Small Business Programs. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.